long process, and I know about that. The owner of the property really doesn't have any incentive at this point to make it any nicer, to rent out the empty stores. Can we get some assurance from somebody? Can the city council keep an eye on? Can somebody give us some assurance that this place is not going to turn into a slum between now and 2020 when something finally, bulldozers probably going through? Because it's an eyesore now, and I'm telling you, this is probably the best it's going to look.
Yeah, we would. Okay. I don't even know if I'm going to get into that dialogue right now. I'm not hearing about the merits of the job, but I totally understand your point. I think you have a point to the city. Can the city do anything, or can anything be done? I think that honestly should be a side conversation.
Well, can you tell it to your cousin that this is a concern of the neighbors? Like, he really wants on his side if he's going to do this.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Okay. We have looked into the possibility, and it's been difficult, and I don't know if the city will permit it, because the most ugliest piece of building up there is the grocery store. Okay? So we have looked at the possibility of just tearing it down and leaving it as parking or just a lot. I don't know if the city would allow us to do that without formalizing a plan first.
If I can jump in, my name is Christian Bach. I'm a resident owner at 71 Monte Vista. I do agree with much, if not all, of what Chris has said. My focus really is more on the facts and the merits of the building. Again, as a resident, as a resident, I would love to see this project, something to happen at that square shopping center. It is a plight for me. I think most of us here. The question really is on the merits, and I asked that the city could actually call out for us to go through the building department codes and find out whether or not they're hitting all the right markers. I got here late, so I'm not sure where your 45 or so on feet come from. From 1912-40, it says that commercial neighborhood buildings should be over 35 feet. If there's something there, I would ask the city to call out for us to help us understand the merits of their zoning requirements. The existing buildings are just under 35 feet. I think we should stay at a two-story building. I don't know how we got to 45. I can see your concerns for parking, the floor area ratio of the site still can expand, even though you're not using parking under the floor area ratio. You have the ability to make a double parking structure down the road. I'm glad that you've gone down from the number of units from 74 down to 454 or 53 units. If I break down for the zoning requirements under ordinance 19, whatever it is, you need 53, for the 53 units, you need about 89 or 73 specific spaces. There's no change in the retail use per standards. That 244 that was existing was based on 300 square feet. One parking space for 300 square feet. I believe for the code, you need one parking space for 200 square feet, which means you need upwards of 333 parking spaces. You have nowhere near that. As a resident right behind here, parking studies aside, we see a lot of traffic going to Sinaloa from all friends of mine, my kids go there as well, dropping off kids. And I would agree to have a cul-de-sac or lock off that area because there's going to be more overflow, and that goes right on to Monte Vista. We don't want to see that happen. I want to see something happen, but I want to make sure that it's within, I have it in the shed, back from my fence line. You should follow the same zoning requirements we need to. And I ask the city to call out where they're asking for variances. Please let us know up front, and I don't have to dig through all this stuff to figure out what they're asking for, whether it meets the current zoning requirements.
As Tom said at the beginning, that is part of the process. Again, this is a very conceptual design stage.
Understood.
We're not going to go through, again, the fine-grained specifics and the environmental review until we've got a better sense from the community, from the Design Review Commission, in terms of what the project ultimately will be. At this point, it will morph. And so, again, when it gets a little closer to what might be a real project review, then all that will occur. But this is really real for the second, really talking about the concept, the scale of the project, how it's laid out. That's what we're focusing on tonight.
So obviously with the city.
I'm Bob Brown, I'm the redevelopment director.
Okay.
Steve Marshall, our planning managers here with other city staff. We're listening. That's the point of our being here.
So I got an issue. Why apartments, why not build townhouses and sell them, right, to keep the traffic down? You don't have the turnover. I'm in the construction business with all the units. I'm working for a guy who's got 73 units in the city. Constant turnover, constant junk left. I mean, it's a cycle, right? I mean, the money's good, yeah, but you got all this cycle going on. And if you build townhouses or homes like you did over in McClay, recoup your investment, put a small commercial space there and get a couple anchor tenants that are going to give you, dedicated money. I mean, to me, it makes a lot more sense. And you put the houses out of the way. You don't have this whole cycle of people and cars and, it's all limited to their spot, boom, boom, boom. You can sell them. You can sell them. Market's great.
I hear you. It's just not what the owners want to do. So, I mean, I could pose that question. It's just not what they want to do with their property. So, but I understand.
And then again, what you're talking about is completely eliminating the entire shopping center. That's what you're talking about.
Back in the back.
You have a few.
You have anchor tenants, and then you have.
I mean, the answer is it's just not what they want to do.
All right, got it.
I mean, if this fails, maybe that gets proposed. I mean, sir, you, sir.
My wife and I have lived on Buena Vista for 44 years. Our backyard opens directly up to the backside of those apartments. We were told there was going to be a story pole put up, but we had not seen that.
It's premature for you to, like I said, we're at a neighborhood meeting, and then we're going to do a conceptual review. When a formal application goes in, there will be polls, guaranteed. This is a concept right now. So it's way premature. There's a lot of years ahead in this. That will come. This project will change prior to any story poles going up, and based on this feedback, if that upper level either gets reduced, stepped back, who knows what the final formal application is going to look like. But when that formal application goes through, I assure you the city's going to make a proposal.
Yeah, full proposal will have story poles.
Yeah.
Certified by surveyor.
You talked about maximum income for low-income housing. What's the minimum income requirement?
That's city code.
That's
It's
city code, so-
50%. Which one do you want? The affordable or very affordable?
We don't have section.
There's no section. The city standard says that 10% has to be affordable, 10% has to be very affordable.
Very low and low.
Very, very low and low. And what that means is they take the median income, they multiply it by 50% or 60%, and then they divide it, and they multiply that by 30%, so people aren't paying, I don't know what it is, and then you divide it by 12, and that's the maximum by city code that they can charge for rent.
We're talking about 5 units or 6 units. I mean, roughly around $1,500 to $1,600 in today's market. So you're looking at 5 to 6 units running for about $1,500 to $1,600, depending if it's a single bedroom, 2 bedroom, or even some of the 3 that we incorporated in. Or you're talking about below market value running for $1,800.
So are we looking at maybe like a teacher, a firefighter?
That's what we're hoping for. But again,
They control who goes in, not
we control it. I already talked to
they don't know.
like some of the tenants that are there now, the shopping center, like the manager of the CVS was talking about putting, hey, might people qualify? If I got, I have a single woman with a child as a pharmacist, and she qualifies. I said, depends on this. Yes, we get to choose. So I know that this has been said over and over, that we're building this affordable housing, and we're going to put teachers and firemen in these units. Now, how many teachers and firemen have you found in those units?
They did.
Okay.
So what more, okay, this gentleman over here has his hand up for one minute.
Yeah, Al do again.
Hey, Al.
Number one, on the building itself, it reminds me of something from the 70s, from Walnut Creek. The design is just, I really think it lacks a lot. But one of the things that I was surprised at was the small square footage of the apartment, small square footage of the apartment. And I guess at least I have a concern we don't end up with something like the canal. How many people can live in a one-bedroom? How many adults? Because the adults can each have a car. And how many people can live in an efficiency? And how many adults can live in a 2-bedroom? Because they're all going to have cars. Sure. And if you look at the canal, alone and caused a nightmare there. So I think, you know, and it's part of where you're going demographics with this, you know, are you going to limit the number of adults in an apartment?
Well, I think it's probably ultimately up to the owners and the management, but I don't know if there's ever a mechanism under code. I don't believe so. So, I mean, you're going to have faith in the management of the apartments and the owners that they don't want that either. They don't want to, I mean, I can speak to my family, my cousin owns it. I don't think that's what he wants. And they have control over who they rent to. The only affordable housing, if this gentleman's correct or everyone's correct, that they're just in it for the money and they just want all the, then they probably aren't interested in putting any affordable housing. Because they're going to buy and hold this. They're not going to sell this thing off. So I think they have some control. I think they want to make it a decent place to live because they also want to attract the proper kind of commercial clients.
Well, I think you guys are right on the edge of in actually less parking than you need. And if you end up with more people in each one of the individual apartments, then you're totally blown out of the water on the park.
Absolutely. I mean, I understand.
And that's also assuming that.
How do we
I think
contact?
email.
I'm more than happy to email my business card.
Would you pass those out?
Yeah.
Because not all of us.
And Hans actually,
And we all have opinions that we'd like to voice, but obviously.
And even though you see a 408 number there, I live in San Rafael, so I am local. I'm more than happy to meet with any neighborhood group that puts themselves together. So I'm more than happy to come through and we can discuss it. On here, you will find my phone number and my email address. So I'm more than happy.
And should we also have a contact from the city?
Yeah.
That's right. I think Hans is going to speak to that right now.
Yeah, so the project actually right now is posted on the city website. It has my contact information as well as Steve's contact information on it. And if there's Hans Grunt, Hansgrunt.
And what is your position?
I'm a senior planner with the city of Novato, so I'm working on the prospective entitlements for this project.
Okay, so you're listed on our postcard.
Yes, thank you. It's on the postcard.
So
You
if
received the
we
postcard.
have opinions, we can contact you directly in addition to this gentleman?
Yeah, and on the city's webpage for this project, there's a project webpage. It's also listed real easy, www.novato.org/the square. It's very easy. The plans are there, and if we do additional studies, they will be on there. Hans's contact information and Mr. Summers is on there. So continue to watch that for meeting dates and information.
Because we all feel strongly, or we wouldn't be
Yeah,
here.
my
But I
email
don't think
contact
you're
is on
going to
that.
get to hear us all this evening.
As well as he.
This lady in the back.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Gretchen Simon, and I live on Norma Court, which is right off of Wilson. So I know, I got my friends in the Vistas here. I'm right off of Norma. I'm on Norma Court, right off of Wilson, and my house is the very house on the corner. We've owned that house for 18 years. I've lived in this town for 38 years. I'm a teacher here in town, so I'm up and down all the time. Our big concern is back to the parking, and something I've noticed a trend happening in Novato, and I don't know if any of you have noticed this too. Even in the houses that are not so-called low income, low market, I notice this driving up and down Novato Boulevard, that these apartments have been there for years. These aren't new apartments, and by the time you come in the evening, it is packed up and down the street with cars. Now you can say, like you said, you can't limit. You can say, oh, this is a one-family apartment. Well, you can say that, but controlling that is a whole different thing. And so I've noticed with our neighbors that live around these apartments, there's nowhere to park. And so that is a real legitimate concern of the parking. Say it again? Yeah, I'm concerned about their parking in our court. We have this little court and we hardly have a place to park. So these parking concerns are not emotional. These are real concerns that the city needs to pay attention to. Because this is a problem in Novato with apartments in general. People are packing in sardines and they are parking all over the place. So I don't know if any of you have noticed this, but that is a real concern, and that has nothing to do with low-income housing. That has to do with people needing to live, and we're all being affected by it where we weren't some years ago. And we live that, so that is my concern.
Thank you.
So the piggybacking on her since I lived with her. So Norma, Rena, what's gonna keep those courts from being completely full of cars? So our community's gonna be destroyed. Norma, you're gonna go in there, you're gonna be lucky if you can park in front of your own house.
That's exactly what's happening over at the apartments across from Our Lady of Loretto.
Yes.
The apartments have tons of people parking on the street, into the parking lot area over by Long's. They also park in the adjacent cul-de-sacs. I used to live on one of those streets, and I went to visit my friend, and she came and parked in front of her own house. On St. Paul, and I think it's Stafford or Santiago, even McClay Road. And it's affecting all of us.
Leafway too. Anybody that lives over in that neighborhood.
Absolutely.
And so what we are trying to do, get your input, and try to see if we can work with that, okay? The other thing you were talking about, yes, there is a utility easement that runs from Wilson to Novato Boulevard. And that's the tie-in of the water line. Okay, so if they have problems, they can shut water off down the way and tie it in and divert it to the river. Not the whole area would be without water. So that is an easement that we can't encroach.
The water district would be happy to work with you with an alternate easement.
Yes, but then they want us to pay for it. I understand.
You, sir?
My name's Tony Soul. I live on Fredson Court, which would be probably County Quarter here. The main concern I have with this project, number one, is impact on the outside community. And from what I'm looking at and how I use the shopping center presently, let's say I go on a busy day, you have CVS and the minimal amount of tenants in now, I see about half of that parking lot being taken up on a busy day. I'm looking at your design here with the amount of units you have in the townhomes and what you have blocked off for the townhomes, and taking into account the amount of units you have here, there's entirely not enough parking. That's already been stated. So the way I'm looking at this project is you're going to need to sacrifice some of your retail section to accommodate all the neighbors here for what your projected plans are. So you know you're in this to make money. That's fine. To be a good neighbor, you need to sacrifice some of that to accommodate the people that are around this area. So if there's an impact, you have UPS trucks coming in, you have all this stuff, basically there's no flow to this at all, what I'm looking at. So in my opinion, and I'm sure someone else will agree with me, you're going to need to sacrifice some of your retail section to accommodate the amount of people you want to put into this area. Plus I'm looking at an apartment complex that has no common area at all. There's nowhere for anyone in this apartment complex to act as a community. Let's say a section area that has, center area that has grass, or something for kids to run around with and play. They're going to be running across the street, and as this gentleman said, you've got trucks coming in, you're going to have commercial space, so you've got a calamity here. So in my opinion, for you to be a good neighbor and not impact this area here, you're going to have to sacrifice a bit of your retail space.
Yeah, I have a whole other sort of perspective. Is I'd like to see the shopping center actually do something.
Yes.
I live in Novato. I drive out of Novato for almost every visit, everything I want. I'd like to see a vital shopping center here that I can actually use. I use CVS and that's it. The quality of the shopping center is lousy. And I don't know, why can't you attract some businesses in there that we can all use? And if there was a decent restaurant in there, I'd go in there. If there was a decent business in there, I'd go in there. The same thing is true all over Novato. I think the city needs to ask, why can't we get some businesses in Novato that all of us can use? Why should we have to drive down the freeway to get to a business? This is a perfect place to have businesses that our neighborhood can use. And the shopping center is being mismanaged, and it's in poor shape, so it can attract businesses in there because of those reasons. And the businesses in there, I mean, I don't use anything in there except CVS, because it's a vital use that I need. And I would like to see it renovated and be a vital shopping center that we can all use. I don't want to see apartments in there. I don't want to see apartments in there. Why would you want to put kids next to a gas station with no place to go? I mean, and if there wasn't apartments in there, there'd be enough parking space for business and so forth. And then there wouldn't be a traffic issue because people come in, use it, and leave, and they're not parking in the neighborhood. I think the city ought to address a bigger picture about how we want Novato developed and what we want here.
Very good.
Should you look at this one with your town mall, the history of that particular mall, because I lived there quite a number of years ago when it was a dump. It was a complete empty store. Nobody went there. It was hideous. But it was bought, it was bought out, it was bought by a company who truly were good neighbors. This corporation came in, and in fact they did a documentary on this. They came in and they were thoughtful. They thought about every little detail of how they were going to renovate that mall and attract businesses. They thought about the smallest of details of rounding off corners, of painting murals, of plants. I mean, there was no detail missed in the construction and development of that. And yes, a lot of money was invested in it. But they said in the documentary that within 3 to 5 years they are actually making their money back because they had attracted and filled up every single one of their storefronts. And they were able to charge the rent that they could have. And that place, I watched it go from a deserted, nobody there, to where families go to have lunch with their kids around the fountains, and people just wandered through, and it was amazing transformation. Now, if you want to be good neighbors, that's what I would love to see happen there. Some place where we can go as a community and sit and have, coffee and say, hey, the guy that owned this place really did a great job here, and it really promotes a community. That's what we want as a community.
I try to be really reasonable and objective. I think everybody here wants to see something happen at the square. I think the biggest problem I'm having, regardless of anything, is that I don't think we trust that your cousin, based on our past history, and I don't care, I know since 2008 you got the last parcel, but that's still 8 years that he's owned the entire thing. And, I mean, there's been graffiti and boarded up windows and broken glass, and half the lights in the parking lot are out.
Should be all on that.
Okay, you're being a little disrespectful to me right now because I'm talking to the past history. It's hard to trust. I understand, my dad's a venture capitalist. It's all about money, and I get it, and I don't expect you guys not to make money. Okay, that's the bottom line. But the fact that there hasn't been responsible ownership for the last 8 years makes me feel like, why would I trust you not only to do a good job, but then to manage that facility with all those extra tenants? Why would I trust that you would do that when you haven't done it? And that is my reason.
All I can say is there's personal stuff that's involved. I know, I'm just saying.
Please do not go off on,
No,
I
I'm just
understand
saying.
all about your issues and the
I'm just saying,
economic forecast.
all I can say is,
not even get into
some of the other business that we
you don't have to respond to me, I just want to know.
I heard you loud and clear, and I will make sure that it's.
Question over here.
I'm sorry, she was right in front.
Anyway, I have a lot to say, so I just want to make just a comment to here about Novato. Most of anybody you have known have grown here with Novato. Roger Wilco did not go out of business because of rent
Bill Jonas retired and sold.
Thank you.
When things go to design review makes a recommendation. When it goes to planning makes a recommendation. And when it goes to the city council makes a final decision or changes. Correct? Correct. So if you go on to a design review board meeting, they make recommendations. It can all be changed. It has been in the past.
Exactly.
Okay? The other thing I want to do is I want to read something from an article from 2008 about the Whole Foods complex. It quotes, first of all, are any city council members here? Thank you.
Pat Eklund, current mayor, and Dan Drew, city council.
Okay, thank you. I didn't see that too. It quotes, well, at the time Mayor Eklund, it said it's huge and overbearing.
Yeah.
It's Councilwoman Carol Dillon Knudsen said it's shocking. Councilwoman Jean McLean said, in hindsight, a scale model would have been very helpful.
And she's an architect.
Let me point out, yes, she's an architect, and her husband is also an architect, and he was on design review board at the time. Okay? It said that building is 60 feet tall at its highest point. That's only 17.5 feet shorter than your building is only 17.5 feet shorter. And theirs was 6 stories at 60 feet. Yours is 3 stories at 42.5 feet. Okay? That's about all I have. Just to point out that until it gets to city council and it's approved, nothing's set in stone. And even then, because I was on design review board for a number of years, when it goes to building, or planning, I should say, and it gets out and being built, architectural changes are made. Well, architectural changes are made because I was on the board, we approved some buildings, I went out and looked at them afterwards, and specific things that we had made note of were changed in the building department. Well, it did. So, thank you. Yes?
Tina.
Tina first. Okay.
Full disclosure.
Full disclosure.
Full disclosure. She was one of my clients.
And he did an amazing job, which is why I hope as far as the colors and the design, and God forbid the horrible squares that you put all over the building, that you will make them go away, Stuart, because you're really a talented architect, and I know that. I'm excited because something's going to happen in the square. I'm concerned for everybody in the room for all the reasons everyone's given, but I think I have more faith in these guys because I spent over 14 months working with Stuart, and he gave us an ADA addition to our home that helped my youngest son. It was just tremendous. So I have a different feeling about him. He's not a stranger to me. I'm unhappy like everyone else is about the condition of the square. I've lived here since 1982. I came up here after the flood. The square, after Roger Wilco left and it went through those other grocery stores, it just died. I mean, I remember when there was a toy store there. I remember all the great restaurants, and I want it to be something like that again. So in terms of the drawings that you guys have up there, I know there's 70 easements on that property. There's a city easement in the back. But the gentlemen and the other people that have homes behind a major apartment center need something in that easement that's going to break up the view. I don't know if there's enough room if the building is stepped in further to put redwood trees. I know that we're in a flood zone, but you can do things with landscaping that allow people to maintain their privacy and don't feel like apartments are looking down into them. I checked the other apartment complexes in town, and I used Bridge Creek primarily. The square footage of the Bridge Creek apartments is significantly larger than what you put in the main complex. The townhouses have great square footage, and they have attached garages, and then with the wall, a little bit of an area for kids and Pioneer Park across the street. But your main apartment building, I believe the units are too small. I know you could get the rents on them because we have a 4% vacancy rate, but if you turn some of the 25 one-bedroom units into 2 bedrooms, if you made the units large enough to draw more upscale, and that's really what this is about, what I think people are asking for is an upscale development with shops and housing where when you look at it, you'll feel like there's something wonderful that's grown into the neighborhood and not something that potentially is going to get downgraded. I think there need to be, and I don't know the right word, but some kind of CC&Rs. So God forbid Jeffrey decides to sell it, someone can't come in and turn it into Section 8. Someone can't come in and say you can put 5 people into a studio. I think there need to be limitations in the apartments to how many people can be in units. I think that the 264 proposed parking spaces, including the off-site, is not enough because I work in one of those buildings across from the apartments you talked about, and we have to scare people out of our parking lot because they line Novato Boulevard now. This is between Our Lady of Loretto and the library, but people in apartments, because it's so hard to use public transit to get to jobs, usually all adults have their own car. So if there were CC&Rs that could protect the neighborhood in the long run, so no matter who eventually owns this, there were some kind of rules in place that really protected the long-term integrity of what you built, it would be wonderful. And if there was a way already now, I know it's hard to get a police presence there. I think there was a bottle fight or something that happened the other day, kids drinking. Unfortunately, I see the same problems at the Safeway Shopping Center, even though it's totally built out. There's people living along the creek. There are problems, right? But if there was a way right now, because I figure this is 2 years from the point that you actually get the plans underway and actually all being done.
Maybe longer.
Okay, all right, so good, I'm not underestimating.
I think you're underestimating.
Okay, people need to see a visible change in what the square looks like in order to feel hope. Because I'm on your side. I mean, I want it better more than anything. I think it's awful right now. But if people don't have hope and don't have faith in what's being done, then I'm worried that they're going to be discouraged, and then your cousin will want to sell it, and someone could spend the $40,000 and turn it all into affordable housing, which would really impact the schools in the neighborhood. So that's my 2 cents.
I just need to show something, because I wanted to ask.
I'm Trish Borstein, and I've met Stephen and Stuart before. What?
Okay.
Okay, so anyways, right now, the bike lane for Sinaloa and the kids runs right along here.
Right.
And so obviously that doesn't work because you can't have cars backing out and kids. So the bike lane, I guess, would have to go somehow in front of the diagonal parking, and if you can't fit the bike lane in for the kids in front of the diagonal parking, then do you keep it just parallel like it currently is, or do you have to reduce the number of units?
Probably. Yeah, we were shouting. There's a whole other concept that got pitched that I guess in some communities I've never heard of it, but when they have this situation, Hans pointed it out to me. Is it Petaluma? They have like back in diagonal parking now. I know that sounds kind of crazy. It's something, but I understand that concern about the bike lane totally, and I think it merits, obviously merits great study.
Yeah, we're very aware of it.
Yeah,
there's no determination on that.
Anybody has driven a left off Novato Boulevard down Wilson, you would realize you cannot have diagonal parking there. You pull right out into the middle of Wilson and stop everything. So there just simply can't do that.
So understood that there's, but understood that a great deal of scrutiny needs to go in that, and this may not work, so, yeah.
Is the parking you're showing there your property or city property? Where the diagonal parking is from?
That's city parking, city, street parking.
Is that considered your off-site parking?
Yes.
Is it my understanding that the footprint of the commercial buildings are not going to change, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
So
Right now, the way it
That's
sits,
the
there's
point.
not changing, right?
Okay, so if you're not even projecting anything to happen for 4 years, I'm kind of echoing what everybody's saying. I think what everyone is asking is, can this retail portion of it be refreshed so that we know what it's going to look like? You know, what is the point of letting all this commercial space be vacant? Your client is not, or
No,
your
relative,
cousin,
right.
whatever, is not generating any kind of income at all. It's just more money he has to recoup, and you know, is now jamming up the residential to make up for this loss. So, you know, let's.
Well, I think.
I mean, I think understood.
We understood what you're talking about, okay, but I think if we have an understanding on a direction on which way we can go, maybe we can improve existing commercial space. At least we know what's going to tie into whatever comes out of this whole agenda. But right now, you're asking us to kind of renovate the commercial building without knowing what direction we're going to go in. So I understand that, okay? Again, it's a matter of having the financial resources and being able to borrow the money to do that.
How much does it cost to replace the windows that are boarded up?
Yeah.
Well, that's a section that's being torn down. So.
We're talking about commercial refreshment. I'm talking about just a visual refreshment. And one of the other reasons, one of the other benefits though of refreshing, and I'm not talking about a whole renovation, just a refreshing to reduce the visual blight, is to, you know, if you've got viable retail in there, you'll get a better understanding of what the traffic is going to be like when it's built out and what the parking is going to be like. You know, Tony just mentioned how even in the condition that it's in, that half of the parking lot is very filled on a busy day. Imagine what it's going to be like when you do have you know, hopefully a viable commercial entity. And that also with the traffic studies, because it's not just people, you know, apartments or what have you, but you've got delivery trucks, you've got employees coming in and out of the parking, so it would just give a better, you know, just a more correct traffic and parking study.
The message needs to go to your president. He's been running the shopping center on the cheap for a number of years, and there might be a sense here that he's trying to do this reconstruction on the cheap, not doing a lot to move the buildings around, trying to work recycling. It's not a bad word, but when it comes to this, he's recycling buildings, not really moving them around as he needs to be. If he can't afford to do this right, he should find partners to help him do it, or he should sell the shopping centers so that someone who's ready to invest money is going to do it. Because we don't want this done on the cheap. People with money did the Ignacio Shopping Center reconstruction, and it's really working out well nicely there. Put a lot of money into it. He needs to put money into this. If he's not ready to do that, then he should just act on it and sell it on.
Thank you. Next step on this is DRC conceptual in January sometime. Is that presumably the next step?
It could be, unless there's interest in the neighborhood workshop, but yes, that would be the next step of the DRC, Design Review Commission workshop.
Okay, so I want to make it clear to everybody that if that's the next step, that the plans that are in and the plans that you're looking at now are going to also be the same plans without changes yet at that meeting. So I just want to make it clear that if we get to that meeting to gather the city's comments and departmental comments in addition to what we've heard tonight, I just don't want there to be some misconception that, oh, these guys didn't respond to us at all. Okay, I just want to make sure that the expectation of you folks isn't that when we get to this DRC meeting in January that, oh, they're going to listen and change a whole bunch of stuff. It's going to be the exact same thing to also gather their comments and, of course, getting it on public record for you folks to come back and get to all that you said on public record. That does not mean you've been ignored whatsoever. I just want to make sure you know that, because that could happen. I don't want anybody to feel like we didn't.
Will we get something in the mail?
Absolutely, you will be notified. It'll be a big, I'm sure everyone's going to know about that meeting. And then after that time, I think that's when the entire team and owners will get back together and say, all right, we've heard from the community, we've heard from the city, we've heard from the different departments. Before this comes in for a real application, maybe there'll be a big response and there'll be more meetings like this before it goes back to the